You may be seated today, and thank you again for being with us. I believe this is your day of new perspective, fresh strength, and quiet revelation. There are times in life when the loudest thing you can do is say nothing at all. You don't always have to respond, react, or explain. Sometimes the wisest thing you can do, the most powerful move you can make, is to simply be quiet and observe. You see, when you talk too much, you might miss too much. When you're always trying to be heard, you may not hear what matters. There's value in restraint. There's power in restraint. Some of the most pivotal moments in life are not found in what you say, but in what you notice. Some of you are in seasons where you're surrounded by confusion, by people you don't fully trust, by situations you don't fully understand. And the temptation is to speak up, to prove your point, to defend your intentions. But what if God is saying, this time, just stay still? Let me show you what's really going on. Let me reveal what's been hidden. Let me fight this battle for you. Being quiet doesn't mean being weak. It means you're watching. You're learning, you're letting things unfold. That's when clarity comes. That's when discernment rises. That's when people start to show you who they really are. Not because you called them out, but because they reveal themselves without knowing they were being watched. You don't always need to confront the drama. You don't need to chase the lie. You don't have to expose the betrayal. When you're quiet, you allow the truth to rise on its own. You give space for God to work. He sees it all. He knows who's for you and who's just pretending. There's wisdom in silence. There's strategy in observation. Some doors will open for you simply because you waited quietly while others rushed blindly. Some blessings will come because you chose not to retaliate. But instead, you chose peace. You chose patience. You chose purpose over pride. So don't feel pressured to respond to every insult. Don't feel obligated to explain your every move. Your silence is not weakness. Spiritual authority. It's strength under control. Let the noise pass. Let the gossip die. Let the chaos settle. Because while they were making noise, you were making progress. While they were shouting, you were growing. While they were pretending, you were preparing. So today, I encourage you, be quiet and observe. Don't miss what God is revealing just because you feel the need to speak. Step back. Watch closely. Let your silence speak louder than any argument, because in that silence, there's a voice, and it's not yours. It's God's. He's guiding you. He's protecting you. He's working behind the scenes. And if you'll stay quiet long enough, you'll see everything you need to see and more. There is a misconception that silence is a sign of weakness. That if you don't speak up, if you don't react, if you don't have a quick response, you must be afraid or uncertain. But real strength doesn't always roar. Real power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes strength shows up in quiet confidence, in calm restraint, in the ability to hold your peace while everything around you demands your reaction. You don't have to prove your worth by constantly defending yourself. I don't need to argue to feel important. Silence can be the greatest form of self-respect because it says, I know my value, even if you don't. When you're silent in a moment of offense, you're showing that your emotions don't own you. Anybody can snap back. Anybody can argue. There is a misconception that silence is a sign of weakness. That if you don't speak up, if you don't react, if you don't have a quick response, you must be afraid or uncertain. But real strength doesn't always roar. Real power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes strength shows up in quiet confidence, in calm restraint, in the ability to hold your peace while everything around you demands your reaction. You don't have to prove your worth by constantly defending yourself. When you stop talking about it and start working on it, the silence turns into success. And the same people who misunderstood your quietness will later be surprised by your strength. So the next time you feel the urge to react, pause. The next time someone pushes your buttons, breathe. When you slow down, stay quiet, and take the time to truly observe, you begin to see life through a different lens. Most people are too quick to speak, too eager to judge, too busy trying to be seen or heard. But the person who knows how to watch patiently, who listens without interrupting, who notices the small things, develops a kind of insight that can't be taught, only learned through experience. There's something powerful about choosing to observe instead of react. It allows you to see what others miss. While everyone else is rushing to respond, you're noticing patterns. You're picking up on details, mannerisms, inconsistencies. You're learning not just what people say, but what they truly mean. And that over time builds discernment, a deep, intuitive understanding that guides you beyond surface-level impressions. Discernment isn't always loud, it's quiet. It doesn't always come with an explanation. Sometimes it's just a sense that something isn't right, or that something is worth trusting. When you develop the discipline to observe before you speak, you allow your intuition to sharpen. You begin to hear the truth behind the noise. You become wise enough to separate emotion from fact, impulse from intention. When you walk into a room and you're not trying to impress anyone, you can learn everything you need to know. People will show you who they are without realizing it. The way they treat those who can't help them. The words they use when they're frustrated. The inconsistencies between their actions and their statements. You start to recognize when someone's loyalty is real and when it's just convenience. Observation gives you the advantage of timing. While others are speaking prematurely, you're gathering data. While they're making noise, you're gaining clarity. And when the time comes to make a decision, you're not guessing, you're choosing based on insight. That kind of wisdom doesn't come from reacting quickly. It comes from being patient enough to see what's beneath the surface. Discernment helps you avoid unnecessary conflict. You start to realize that not everything deserves your attention. Some comments are bait, some invitations are distractions. When you observe long enough, you can tell the difference between someone asking a question and someone looking for a fight. You become secure enough in yourself to say, I don't need to respond to that. I already see the heart behind it. It also protects your path. Not every opportunity is what it seems. Not every compliment is sincere. And not every connection is meant to be trusted. Observation gives you the filter to know what to accept and what to walk away from. It helps you recognize manipulation before it traps you, before it hurts you, and false promises before they disappoint you. There's power in holding your peace and letting situations reveal themselves. When you're not rushing to fill the silence, the truth has room to come forward. People start talking freely when they think you're not analyzing. They expose their real motives when you give them space. Sometimes, all you need to do is let people talk long enough and they'll tell on themselves. It takes humility to observe first. It requires that you put aside the need to be right and choose instead to be wise. Most people listen to respond. Few listen to understand. The person who chooses to understand gains more than just information. They gain clarity, and with clarity comes direction. You can't make strong decisions in confusion. You need clarity. And clarity comes from stillness, from watching, from paying attention. Think about how many regrets could be avoided if we learn to observe instead of assume. How many broken relationships, missed opportunities, or painful mistakes happen simply because someone didn't take the time to truly watch, listen, and discern. We rush into things because we want answers fast. You can't rush discernment It grows in the soil of silence. It matures in the moments where you sit back and let the story unfold. And in that quiet process, you start to develop a sense for what is true, what is trustworthy. Your spirit becomes more sensitive. You stop reacting to surface things, and instead you respond with wisdom born from insight. People will often misunderstand the one who observes. They'll think you're disinterested, slow, maybe even disconnected. But they don't realize you're just collecting the pieces. You're forming the full picture. You're not careless. You're careful. You're not passive. You're perceptive. And when the moment is right, when it matters most, you'll speak with such accuracy and precision that it will surprise everyone who thought you were quiet just for the sake of it. The truth is, when you've taken the time to observe deeply, you don't need to say much to say something powerful. One well-timed word, one clear choice, one strong boundary can carry more impact than 1,000 careless reactions. Discernment gives your voice weight. It gives your decisions depth. It gives your life direction. So stay quiet long enough to see what others can't. Observe patiently. Listen closely. Let discernment be your guide. And watch as clarity, wisdom, and protection follow your every step. It doesn't always come with applause, recognition, or visible results. In fact, most of the time, true growth happens in the quiet, behind the scenes in solitude. It's in the seasons when no one's watching, when you're not performing for approval, when life feels slow or even silent. That's when deep transformation begins to take root. We tend to equate progress with motion, with noise, with external change. But what if the most important growth in your life isn't what's happening around you, but what's happening within you? What if the silence isn't a sign that nothing's working, but that something is being built in you, piece by piece? There are seasons where it feels like everything is paused. Doors seem closed. People are distant. Opportunities slow down. It'd be tempting to think you're being overlooked or worse, forgotten. But it's in these quiet stretches that something sacred is happening. Your character is being refined. Your thoughts are being shaped. Your spirit is being strengthened. You're learning how to stand still and trust the process, even when there's no confirmation. Growth in the quiet is often uncomfortable because it doesn't feed your ego. There's no validation, no crowd, no spotlight. It's just you sitting with your thoughts, facing your weaknesses, being confronted by the areas you usually cover up with activity. But this is where healing begins. This is where maturity develops. This is where you stop performing and start becoming. You can't always grow in the noise. Noise distracts. It entertains. Drowns out the inner work that needs to happen. That's why silence, though often feared, is necessary. Silence removes the distractions and forces you to pay attention to what really matters. It pushes you to ask deeper questions. Who am I becoming? What am I holding on to that's no longer serving me? What do I need to release in order to move forward? It's in these questions asked in the quiet that real growth takes root. Because growth isn't just about doing more, it's about becoming more. It's about becoming more. It's about becoming more patient, more disciplined, more self-aware. And those things aren't learned through speed, they're learned through stillness. Sometimes life pulls you back before it propels you forward. You may feel hidden right now, but that doesn't mean you're not progressing. A seed doesn't grow when it's in the spotlight. It grows in the soil, in the dark, where no one sees. Roots go deep before fruit appears. And if the roots aren't strong, the fruit won't last. In the same way, your quiet season is where your roots are being strengthened, where your foundation is being established. Don't despise the still seasons. Don't resent the silence. Use it. Constant noise never could. Let it teach you what constant noise never could. Let it prepare you for the places you're going. Because when your moment comes, when the opportunity arrives, when the doors open, you won't just be ready externally. You'll be ready internally. You won't crumble under pressure because you've already built endurance in the quiet. It's easy to confuse activity with growth. But not everything that moves is alive, and not everything that's still is dead. Some of your greatest seasons of personal development will look like nothing is happening on the outside, but your mindset is shifting. Your priorities are changing. Your spirit is being realigned. That kind of growth doesn't make noise, but it makes all the difference. There's a strength that comes from enduring silence without giving up. There's a confidence that comes from staying faithful, even when no one else sees the effort. And there's a beauty in looking back one day and realizing how that quiet season shaped me in ways I didn't understand at the time. You may not see the full picture right now. That's okay. Growth doesn't always give you instant results, but over time, the quiet will reveal its purpose. You'll notice how you respond to things differently. You'll recognize how your patience has increased. You'll realize how you've healed from things that once broke you. And all of that happened, not during the loud, celebrated moments, but in the silence. Silence isn't empty, it's full of potential. It's a space where you hear your own voice more clearly, where you reconnect with your values, where you start dreaming again without the pressure of performance. It's the place where creativity is reborn, where perspective is restored, and where strength is developed. So if you're in a quiet season right now, don't rush through it, don't waste it. Lean into it. Ask the hard questions, do the inner work. Rest if you need to, reflect more often. Stay grounded. Because everything you're becoming in this silent season is preparing you for the noise that's coming. And when it does, you'll be ready, not because you pushed your way through, but because you grew in the quiet. One of the greatest lessons you can learn in life is that time has a way of unveiling truth. You don't have to rush into conclusions about people. You don't have to interrogate, accuse, or go digging for answers. Sometimes the best thing you can do is step back, quiet, and give people space, because in time they will reveal who they truly are. You don't need to force people to tell you who they are. If you stay present and pay attention, you'll see it. You'll see it in how they handle pressure, in how they treat others, in how consistent their words are with their actions. Anyone can say the right things for a moment, but sustained behavior always tells the truth. And the truth doesn't need to be extracted. It shows up when people get comfortable. This is why silence is such a powerful tool. When you're quiet, people don't feel watched. They relax. They show their habits. They reveal their intentions. They speak from the overflow of who they really are. If you're always speaking, always leading the conversation, you may miss these subtle but important moments. But if you're willing to hold your peace and observe, you'll see everything you need to see, and no confrontation necessary. We often want clarity immediately. We want to know who we can trust, who's sincere, who really cares. But the best answers don't come from asking people to prove themselves. They come from letting time and consistency speak for them. Anyone can be impressive for a short period of time, but who they are day after day, that's the truth you want to know. People reveal themselves through how they handle conflict. Do they attack when they feel hurt, or do they seek understanding? Do they shut down or rise to the moment? Do they twist your words to win an argument or listen with empathy? These moments are more telling than any promises made in peace. Conflict draws out character, and when you're watching quietly, you learn far more than you ever could through questioning. They also reveal themselves through how they treat those who offer them nothing. Watch how someone treats the waiter, the cleaner, the stranger. Watch how they speak to people they don't need. That's often where the real character is hiding. They're kind only to those who can benefit them. Their kindness is a transaction, not a trait. But you'll only notice these patterns if you're looking with awareness, not distracted by what they say. Patience is your protection. Rushing into connections, partnerships, or relationships based on early impressions can lead to deep disappointment. People can wear masks for a while, but eventually the mask slips. And when it does, you want to be someone who was watching, not someone who was talking so much you missed it. You don't have to chase truth. Truth has a way of surfacing. It always does. Your job is to be still enough to see it. Some people will talk their way into your trust and then act their way out of it. But if you observe patiently, their actions will confirm everything. You also learn who people are when they think. They're not being observed, when they're not performing, when they're relaxed. That's when the real self shows up. And the best way to reach that place, harder, but by stepping back and giving them room. Let time expose what pressure conceals. Sometimes silence feels like passivity, but it's not. Strategy, it's maturity. It's a commitment, truth over impulse. It's saying, I'm not going to jump to conclusion. I'm going to wait. Watch and let you tell me who you are by what you do, not just by what you say. It's trusting that if someone is real, consistency will confirm it. And if someone is false, inconsistency will expose it. When it comes to protection, people who are pretending can only hold the act for so long. If you don't chase them, if you don't force conversation, they'll eventually reveal their agenda. Whether it's control, manipulation, or ego, if you stay quiet, they'll show you without realizing. And that kind of clarity is invaluable. Letting people reveal themselves isn't about being suspicious. It's about being wise. It's about giving people the freedom to be who they are, while giving yourself the freedom not to overcommit too early. You don't have to label everyone quickly. Just pay attention. Trust is built over time, and time is the greatest revealer of truth. You'll also notice that when you stop trying to interpret everything and just observe, your stress decreases. Hey, you don't have to solve every puzzle. You don't have to figure people out on day one. You can simply listen, watch, and allow what's real to become clear, natural. And in doing so, you give yourself the gift piece. So don't rush to define people. Let them show you who they are. Time always tells the story. If you stay quiet long enough, if you observe with a calm and open mind, the truth will rise. You won't have to chase it. You'll just need the patience and courage to believe what you see. There's a sacred power in stillness. In the moments when life quiets down and there's no noise, no distractions, no movement, just silence. That's when you start to sense something greater at work. That's when you begin to realize that while you were doing less, something divine was doing more. It's in those still moments, those seasons when nothing seems to be happening on the outside, that God is often doing his deepest, most transformative work on the inside. We often associate movement with progress. We think if we're not doing, striving, chasing, then nothing's getting done. But there are times when your greatest strength is found in not moving, not speaking, not rushing, but simply being still and trusting. Stillness isn't inactivity, it's surrender. It's the place where you stop trying to control every detail and start allowing the one who sees all to take over. When you're still, you begin to see from a higher perspective. The rush of emotions quiets down. The fog of stress begins to lift. You hear the whisper of guidance that's been drowned out by your own thoughts. It's in the stillness that clarity returns. It's where you stop acting out of panic and start listening from a place of peace. God doesn't need noise to make a move. He doesn't require fanfare or chaos to do something significant. Some of the most powerful miracles in life happen quietly. They don't always come with flashing signs or dramatic moments. Sometimes they show up as a calm shift in your heart, a new peace in your mind, a sudden understanding that wasn't there before. These are not small things. These are the foundations of a transformed life, and they often come in the stillness. Stillness invites divine alignment. When you stop running ahead and sit in the moment, you allow yourself to be recalibrated. You remember that you're not alone, that you don't have to figure everything out. That maybe, it just maybe, there's something working on your behalf that you can't see yet. It's in this space that faith begins to stretch. Because faith isn't just believing when things are moving. Faith is trusting when nothing seems to be moving at all. We tend to panic in the silence. We think silence means absence, that God has forgotten, or worse, abandoned us. But silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means you've stepped into a space where deeper work is unfolding. A space where God is preparing, pruning, positioning, doing things that eyes can't see but time will eventually reveal. You're not forgotten in the stillness. You're being shaped. Sometimes the noise has to be turned down so you can be tuned in. Sometimes life slows so your soul can catch up. And sometimes doors don't open immediately because what's behind them isn't ready yet. Or you're not ready yet. But trust this. Just because you can't see the movement doesn't mean there isn't one. When you sit in silence long enough, you begin to notice how much you've been striving. How much you've been trying to force things, fix things, figure things out. Stillness reveals how loud your soul has become. But it also offers a reset, a return to center, a chance to remember that you don't have to carry everything, control everything, or solve everything. Some things were never yours to carry in the first place. God often moves in ways that don't look like movement. A delay can be protection. A closed door can be redirection. A season of stillness can be a setup for something greater. But you only begin to see that when you stop pushing and start trusting, when you stop doing all the talking and start listening. When you stop filling every gap with noise and give space for the still, small voice that brings peace and direction. Think about the moments in your life when you truly changed. Not the flashy, loud ones, but the quiet breakthroughs. The moments when you were alone, unsure, but somehow found the courage to keep going. The times when everything was silent around you, but something shifted inside you. That wasn't accidental. That was divine. Stillness allows healing to take place. Some wounds are too deep to be rushed. Some fears too rooted to be torn out in one dramatic event. They require time, reflection, grace. And God does this kind of work in the quiet spaces when no one is watching, when nothing seems impressive, when you feel like you're stuck, but you're actually being restored. There's a reason the scriptures so often say, "Be still," because stillness is a posture of trust. It's deeply active. It's choosing to rest in faith even when your surroundings give you no reason to. It's believing that the one who started the work will finish it in his timing, not yours. And it's understanding that his timing, though it may test your patience, is always perfect. You won't always feel the movement. But that doesn't mean it's not happening. You won't always hear the voice. But that doesn't mean he's not speaking. Sometimes the silence is the message. Sometimes the stillness is the lesson. And sometimes the wait is the miracle in disguise. So if you find yourself in a quiet place right now, take a deep breath. Stop trying to escape the silence. Settle into it. Because right there, in the stillness, something sacred is happening. Something beyond your control, beyond your understanding. Something that will prove in time that even when nothing seemed to be happening, God was moving all along. There comes a point in life when you realize not every reaction deserves your attention. Not every insult requires a response, and not every battle is worth fighting. In that moment, you stop speaking just to be heard and start understanding the power of silence as a strategy. Silence isn't just the absence of noise. It's an intentional, powerful decision to pause, to pull back, to withhold energy from the things that don't serve your peace or your purpose. People often associate silence with avoidance, weakness, or fear. But silence, when chosen wisely, is one of the strongest moves you can. It doesn't mean you're ignoring reality. It means you're choosing wisdom over impulse. You're choosing to conserve your energy for what truly matters. Silence used strategically becomes a shield, a weapon, and a guide all at once. Sometimes the loudest room is the one that lacks clarity. When everyone is talking over each other, trying to be the loudest voice, trying to prove a point, the only thing that grows is confusion. But when you choose to step back from the noise, when you decide to observe instead of engage, you give yourself a chance to see the situation clearly. You make space for reflection, for understanding, for discernment. There's a unique power in not reacting. When people expect you to argue and you remain calm, there's strength in that. When they try to bait you into drama and you remain unbothered, that's control. When you're misjudged, misunderstood, even lied about, and you don't retaliate, you're not surrendering, you're mastering your emotions. That's strategy. You're not letting their chaos become your chaos. You're protecting your peace without even lifting a finger. Strategic silence also allows others to expose themselves. When you stop defending yourself, people who are dishonest will eventually run out of things to twist. When you stop engaging, they have no one to fight but their own conscience. In your silence, you allow truth to do the talking. Time has a way of proving what words cannot. And when you stay quiet, you position yourself to let truth unfold on its own. There are also moments when silence is the most eloquent statement you can make. Not because you don't have something to say, but because what you could say would only escalate the noise. Sometimes your silence says, I'm not going to lower myself to this level. Other times it says, I know who I am. I don't need your approval to confirm it. There's confidence in choosing not to engage. There's maturity in not needing the last word. Strategic silence gives you control over your story. When you don't constantly explain yourself, people are forced to draw conclusions from your actions. And when your actions are grounded in integrity, consistency, and peace, they speak louder than any defense you could offer. You begin to build a reputation that doesn't rely on what you say, but on who you are when no one's looking. Silence isn't the absence of strength, it's the presence of discipline. It means you're choosing to respond from wisdom rather than react from emotion. It means you've grown enough to know that not everything needs to be addressed immediately, and not every person deserves your vulnerability. There's a time to speak, but there's also a time to wait. And in the waiting, your silence can become the strategy that protects your destiny. It also creates space for divine instruction. When you're constantly talking, planning, and forcing outcomes, you leave no room for direction from above. But when you quiet the noise, you become more sensitive to the quiet nudges, the inner convictions, the subtle confirmations that only come when you're still. Silence creates room for wisdom to rise. It opens the door for deeper understanding. And that understanding can guide you further than any argument ever could. Silence helps you rise above what was meant to pull you down. When people criticize you, they're often hoping for a reaction. When you don't give it to them, you take away their power. When you keep moving forward without being sidetracked, by petty distractions. You demonstrate a different kind of strength, the kind that doesn't need validation to be real. You'll find that the people who are most secure in who they are don't talk the most. They don't need to announce every move. They're not performing for applause. They're focused. They're grounded. They're strategic. And they understand that silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's a form of wisdom. It's a signal that says, I'm not here to entertain distractions. I'm here to protect what I'm building. It may feel difficult at times, staying silent when everything in you wants to shout. Holding back when you feel misunderstood. Choosing peace when you feel provoked. But those moments are when your character is being refined. Your self-control is being tested and strengthened. And your silence, though it may not be understood by others, is preparing you for greater things. And so the next time you're tempted to speak just to be heard, pause. The next time you feel the urge to defend yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you, pause. The next time you're drawn into drama that distracts from your destiny, pause. Let your silence be your strategy. Let it guard your purpose. Let it create space for truth to rise. You're not losing when you stay silent. You're positioning, you're protecting, you're preparing. And in due time, your silence will prove that it was never about being passive. It was about knowing when to speak, how to move, and what to ignore. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. That's strategy. And that's the strength that will carry you forward. In a world that often measures strength by volume and values reaction over reflection, choosing to be quiet and observe might feel unnatural, maybe even misunderstood. But make no mistake, it is one of the most powerful decisions you can make. You're not choosing silence out of fear. You're choosing it out of wisdom. You're not stepping back because you're weak. You're stepping back because you see more from a distance than you ever could in the middle of the noise. When you learn to embrace quietness, you start to see life differently. You discover that growth isn't always loud. That clarity doesn't come from constant speaking, and that truth doesn't need to be chased. It reveals itself in time. You find that silence is not just the absence of strength. It's the stillness that grounds you, the pause that positions you, the patience that protects you. There's purpose in your quiet season. There's strategy in your stillness. And there is divine power moving behind the scenes when you step back, observe, and let God work. You don't have to prove your worth with noise. You don't have to respond to every challenge or explain your every step. Sometimes your speak louder than your words ever could. So keep your peace when others bring chaos. Choose calm when you're invited into conflict. Stay grounded when you're tempted to rush. Watch closely. Listen deeply. Let the truth unfold. Let people show you who they really are. And let your silence reveal just how much you've grown. Because the strongest people aren't always the ones who say the most, but the ones who know when to say nothing at all. Be quiet. Observe. And trust. Everything you need to know, everything you need to become, everything you need to see will come in time.